A clear blue sky stretched above Los Angeles International Airport, LAX, where travelers hurried through terminals, pushing their rolling suitcases and sipping their coffee. Among the bustling crowd, 17-year-old Mia O'Neal, known for her height and confident stride, stepped out of a black SUV. She was dressed casually in track pants, a hoodie, and sneakers, yet carried herself with an air of quiet confidence, a trait she had inherited from her famous father, Shaquille O'Neal. Despite her imposing frame, few people recognized her as she made her way into the terminal, a small fraction of the sea of passengers. Mia was flying to a youth basketball camp in Chicago, a chance to improve her skills and prove herself beyond just being Shaq's daughter. She was determined to carve her own path and earn respect on her own terms. The nerves she felt were palpable, but she forced them aside as she held on to her ticket and passport, ready to navigate the airport alone. At the check-in counter, only a short line awaited her. A tired-looking clerk, Tina, stood behind the desk, glancing at her watch as Mia approached. Mia slid her documents across the counter, and Tina barely glanced at them before her eyes shifted toward Mia's tall, athletic frame in casual clothes. "Chicago?" Tina asked flatly. "Yes," Mia replied, her voice calm. "One bag to check." Tina raised an eyebrow as she read the ticket. "Business class?" she said with suspicion. "That's an expensive ticket for someone your age." Mia straightened up, keeping her composure. "Yes, that's correct." Tina pursed her lips, her eyes scanning Mia up and down with clear doubt. "Are you sure? You don't look like the type who'd be in business class." Mia clenched her jaw, forcing herself to smile politely. "I know, but I'm traveling alone." Tina blinked, then reluctantly gestured for Mia to proceed. "All right, gate C-22, boarding in an hour." Mia grabbed her boarding pass and moved on, but the uncomfortable feeling lingered. She was used to such judgment, but today it stung a little more. Mia made her way to the TSA checkpoint, hoping for a smooth passage through security. The usual chaos greeted her: families juggling strollers, business travelers glued to their phones. She quickly placed her backpack into the bin and began to shuffle forward. But halfway through the scanner, a TSA officer called out. "Ma'am, step aside for additional screening," he ordered. Mia frowned, her heart rate picking up slightly. "Is something wrong?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. "Just a random check," the agent replied with a hint of suspicion in his tone. His eyes darted over her belongings as he waved another officer over to join him. The second agent started rummaging through her bag, pulling out her sneakers, a rolled-up jersey, notebooks, and basketball gear. "Going to a camp?" the second officer asked, half smirking as he held up her basketball shoes. Mia nodded, her voice calm but with a slight edge. "Yes, it's a basketball camp." The agent nodded, his face unreadable, but Mia could feel the tension rising in her chest as the process dragged on. The minutes felt like hours. She silently counted the seconds, trying not to show her growing irritation. "Next time, consider arriving earlier," the agent remarked dismissively, as if her being held up for a random check was somehow her fault. Her cheeks flushed with frustration, but Mia bit her lip, forcing herself to stay composed. After what felt like an eternity, the officers finished their search, swiping her things for explosives, and finally allowed her to repack her bag. The extra hassle was exhausting, but Mia didn't let it shake her. She gathered her belongings, swallowing the frustration and heading toward her gate. She was determined to focus on the camp, not the obstacles that seemed to be piling up at every turn. As Mia approached gate C-22, she spotted a group of airline staff gathered around, including a man in a blazer with a name tag that read, "Charles, Supervisor." His gaze immediately fixed on her as she walked up, and he stepped forward with a stern expression. "Excuse me, miss," he said curtly, crossing his arms. "We've received information that your seat might have been issued incorrectly. Could I see your boarding pass again?" Mia extended her boarding pass, doing her best to keep her calm, though she felt her frustration begin to bubble up. She watched as Charles studied the pass for a moment, a frown creeping across his face. "Business class? That's unusual for someone your age," he remarked flatly, his eyes scanning her casual outfit. "You traveling alone?" Mia kept her tone even, though she felt the sting of his questioning. "Yes, I'm traveling alone. My father bought the ticket for me," she said quietly. She hesitated, not wanting to name drop but realizing she had no other choice. Charles raised an eyebrow, skeptical. "Let me see some ID," he demanded. Mia handed him her driver's license, her posture growing tense under the scrutiny. He examined it too closely, his gaze narrowing. After a few long moments, he exhaled with an air of indifference. "Fine," he muttered. "Gate C-22. Boarding in an hour." Mia nodded, trying to ignore the lingering sting of his condescension. With her luggage checked, she proceeded toward security, shaking her head slightly. She was determined not to let this get to her. After all, she was here to do something important, prove herself at the basketball camp, not to be doubted and humiliated at every step. As Mia neared the TSA security checkpoint, she let out a sigh of relief. The line seemed typical: families with children, business travelers scrolling through their phones. She placed her backpack in the bin and proceeded through the scanner, trying to shake off the uneasy feeling that had settled in her chest after the exchange with Charles. But halfway through the screening, a TSA officer waved her to the side. "Ma'am, step aside for additional screening," he said abruptly. Mia frowned, stepping aside. "Is something wrong?" she asked politely, though a knot tightened in her stomach. The officer, scanning her with a suspicious look, replied, "Just a random check." His eyes flicked over her frame, clearly taking in her tall, athletic build and casual clothing. He signaled to another agent, who immediately started rummaging through her bag, pulling out items like her sneakers, jerseys, and basketball gear. One of the agents smirked. "What's this?" he asked, clearly mocking the contents of her bag. Mia, maintaining her calm, responded, "I'm going to a basketball camp." The agent didn't smile. "Next time, consider arriving earlier. This might take a while," he said, clearly irritated. Mia folded her arms, trying not to show her growing frustration. The search felt excessive and unwarranted, especially considering she had already been singled out earlier. It was as if everything about her, from her height to her attire, made her a target for unnecessary delays. She bit her lip, resisting the urge to ask if they always treated tall teenagers this way. After what felt like an eternity, they finished their search, scanning her items for explosives and swabbing her hands. Mia hastily repacked her bag, her heart racing with annoyance. This wasn't what she had imagined for her journey. Still, she pushed aside her irritation, reminding herself that this was just another obstacle to overcome. As she approached her gate, her phone buzzed. It was a text from her father. "How's it going, baby girl? Need anything?" She quickly typed back, "All good, Dad. Thanks. No need to worry about me." She didn't want to make him worry, but a part of her longed for his comforting presence. Mia's troubles weren't over. As she approached gate C-22, she noticed a small group of airline staff gathered near the gate. A man in a blazer with a name tag reading Charles, supervisor, stood out. As she drew closer, he glanced up, meeting her gaze before walking over with a disapproving look on his face. "Excuse me, miss," he said curtly. "We've received information that your seat may have been issued incorrectly. Could I see your boarding pass again?" Mia felt a spark of frustration rise in her chest, but controlled it. She handed over her boarding pass, her grip tightening slightly. Charles studied the pass for a moment, frowning as if trying to find some flaw. "Business class?" he muttered skeptically, his tone dismissive. "That's unusual for someone your age." He looked pointedly at her casual attire. "Are you traveling alone?" Mia's eyes flickered with irritation, but she kept her voice steady. "Yes, I'm traveling alone. My father purchased the ticket." She hesitated for a moment, but decided to mention her father's name, hoping it would clear things up. "His name is Shaquille O'Neal." Charles raised an eyebrow, not impressed. "Shaquille O'Neal?" he repeated as if trying to catch her in a lie. His skepticism was palpable. "I don't believe you. This ticket seems a little too good to be true." Mia's cheeks flushed, and she fought to keep her composure. "I'm telling you the truth," she said softly. "It's my ticket, and I'm flying to Chicago for a camp. I have the confirmation email right here." She pulled out her phone, showing the details of her booking. Charles barely glanced at the phone. "We need more than your word. It's airline policy," he said coldly. Turning to an agent behind him, he instructed, "Take her to the side. We need to verify payment details." Mia's heart sank as the agent motioned for her to follow. Her frustration boiled over as she was escorted away from the main boarding area. She had tried to handle this trip on her own, but now here she was, once again subjected to an embarrassing and unnecessary check, as if she didn't belong in business class. In a small nook near a closed coffee kiosk, Charles demanded to see her credit card, the phone with the flight information, and matching ID. Mia felt humiliated as the staff and passers-by watched her display her personal details, her phone buzzing with texts she didn't bother to check. "Is this really necessary?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper, her patience wearing thin. When Charles saw the cardholder's name, Shaquille O'Neal, his expression faltered, but he quickly masked it. "Shaquille O'Neal? Nice try," he sneered. "Look, miss, we can't just let anyone claim business class without proper verification. I'll have to void your ticket." Mia's jaw dropped. "You can't do that," she protested. "I have a valid reservation. You can call my dad, he's Shaquille O'Neal. He's coming here." But Charles shook his head dismissively. "I'll need the real card holder to come here and verify this." His tone was final, and Mia felt a wave of humiliation flood over her. The agent grabbed her arm gently, guiding her toward the exit. Mia's mind raced, her frustration mounting. She pulled out her phone, desperately dialing her father's number. It was time to call him, just as he had insisted if anything went wrong. "Hey, Dad," she said, trying to keep her voice steady but failing. "They're kicking me out. They think my ticket is fake. They won't let me board." Shaquille O'Neal's voice came through immediately, full of concern. "What? I'm on my way, baby. Stay right there." As Mia was escorted out of the secure area, her heart pounded. The agent guided her toward the exit with a firmness that left her feeling small and powerless. She glanced over her shoulder at the staff still standing near the gate, some of them glancing at her with a mix of curiosity and judgment, while others seemed indifferent to her distress. Mia's hands trembled as she reached for her phone again, texting her father's location. She felt a wave of frustration and humiliation. All she wanted was to make her own way, to prove herself independent, but instead she was being treated like an outsider, as though her place in business class wasn't valid, simply because of her appearance. Outside the secure area, she was left standing by a sliding door that led into the arrivals hall. The cold air outside felt like a stark contrast to the warmth she had felt just moments ago inside the airport. Her boarding pass had been confiscated, and she was forced to wait on the curb, under the watchful eyes of passers-by, some of whom were already pulling out their phones to capture the scene. Mia's cheeks burned with embarrassment as she stood there alone, a young woman stranded by the very system that was supposed to be her gateway to success. She texted her father again, panic rising in her chest. "Dad, please hurry. They think my ticket is fake and they won't let me board." Shaquille O'Neal replied almost instantly, "I'm on my way, baby. Stay put. I'll fix this." Minutes felt like hours. Mia's throat tightened as she fought back the tears threatening to fall. She felt so small, so helpless, but she refused to show weakness. She would not let this moment define her. Then out of nowhere, a black SUV screeched to a halt near her. The door swung open, and out stepped a towering figure that instantly drew attention from everyone around. Shaquille O'Neal, her father, strode toward her, his presence unmistakable. Despite being dressed casually in a tracksuit, he exuded an undeniable aura of authority. Heads turned as a ripple of recognition spread through the crowd. Mia's heart lifted the moment she saw him. He was here. Her father, the man who had always been her protector, was about to fix this. He spotted her immediately and strode over, his massive frame casting a shadow over the small group of airline staff. "Mia, are you okay?" Shaq's voice was low, filled with concern as he placed a large hand gently on her shoulder. She nodded tearfully, too overwhelmed to speak. She felt his warmth and strength, and in that moment all the humiliation she had just endured seemed to melt away. Turning toward the airline staff, Shaq's expression hardened. "Someone care to explain why you're throwing my daughter out of here?" he demanded. The supervisor, Charles, who had earlier been so dismissive, took a hesitant step forward. "Sir, we had reason to believe her ticket was purchased fraudulently. She claimed you were her father," he said, his voice forced and unconvincing. Shaq's gaze pierced through him. "She didn't claim anything. She told you who she is and you called her a liar. Why? Because you don't believe she can afford business class?" Charles seemed to shrink under Shaq's gaze. Well, the system flagged it, he muttered, trying to justify his actions, but his voice faltered as Shaq's words continued to hit hard. You harassed and humiliated her for no good reason, Shaq said, his voice growing colder. All you had to do was check my contact information. One phone call. Instead, you made her feel like she didn't belong. That's how you treat passengers? Shaq's words rang out across the terminal, and a small crowd began to gather, some recording the scene on their phones. The airline staff, now realizing the gravity of their mistake, exchanged nervous glances. Shaq's reputation as both a kind and no-nonsense figure was well known, and they understood that this could become a PR nightmare if they didn't act fast. Charles attempted a weak apology. We're sorry for the inconvenience, Mr. O'Neal. Please step inside and we'll fix this. Shaq, however, was not done yet. He folded his arms and remained standing firm. Not so fast. My daughter's flight leaves soon. We need her boarding pass back, and I want a real apology. Then we'll see if we proceed. Charles's face flushed red as he fumbled to retrieve the confiscated boarding pass. Of course, sir. So sorry. We'll escort her to the gate now. No more trouble. Shaq took the boarding pass from Charles and handed it to Mia, his voice softening. You're okay now, baby girl. Don't let this stop you. The airline staff scrambled to reissue Mia's boarding pass and offer her expedited security. The manager, still apologetic, ensured that everything was handled swiftly. As they walked toward the gate, Shaq's presence seemed to calm Mia's nerves, and she finally let out a sigh of relief. Mia looked up at her father, a sense of gratitude filling her heart. Thanks, Dad, she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. I didn't want to make a scene, but I couldn't believe it. Shaq gave her shoulder a reassuring squeeze. You did your best, baby girl. This was their mistake, not yours. As Mia and Shaq made their way toward the gate, the tension in the air seemed to dissipate, but Mia couldn't shake the feeling of humiliation. Despite the swift reissuance of her boarding pass and the efforts of the airline staff to smooth things over, she couldn't forget how she had been treated. The moment they reached the gate, the staff, now overly apologetic, practically tripped over themselves offering upgrades and lounge passes. Shaq, however, was not interested in these superficial gestures. He wasn't here for perks or freebies. He was here for the principle of it. I'm not accepting any of that, he said, his deep voice steady but firm. What I want is respect. No one else should go through what Mia went through today. No one. The manager, still visibly rattled by the public confrontation, nodded eagerly. Of course, Mr. O'Neal. We'll ensure this doesn't happen again. Please accept our sincerest apologies. We will investigate the incident thoroughly. Mia could feel the eyes of the crowd on her, some curious, others seemingly sympathetic, but all of them understanding the gravity of the situation. She was deeply grateful for her father's intervention, but a part of her still resented the fact that she had to lean on him to make things right. This wasn't how she had envisioned her journey to the basketball camp going. She glanced up at Shaq, who gave her a small, reassuring smile. Don't sweat it, kid. We got this handled. Just focus on what matters. Your game. You've got a future to build, and this is just a bump in the road. Mia nodded, wiping the last of the tears from her cheeks. She was done letting this incident weigh her down. She had more important things to focus on. The coach at the camp had seen her potential, and now it was time for her to show the world what she was made of, on her own terms. As they moved to board the plane, Mia turned to her father with a determined look. I'll show them, Dad. I'll prove it to everyone. This is my time. Shaq placed a large hand on her shoulder, a simple gesture of support that spoke volumes. I know you will. Just remember, no one can take away what you've earned. As the plane took off, Mia felt a sense of calm wash over her. The chaos of the airport, the unfair treatment, all of it seemed so far behind. She was on her way to something bigger. It wasn't just about basketball anymore. It was about proving to herself and to the world that she had a place in the game, no matter what assumptions or biases others might hold. By the time Mia reached the basketball camp, she had shaken off the lingering embarrassment of the airport incident. As the coach welcomed her, the tension of the previous days seemed to melt away. It was just her, the court, and the chance to prove herself. The camp was intense, with players from all over the country showing off their skills, and Mia felt the weight of expectations bearing down on her. But with every drill, she grew more confident. Her legs moved faster, her shots became sharper, and with each basket, she felt herself getting closer to the person she had always wanted to be. Not just Shaq's daughter, but Mia O'Neal, a player in her own right. During the final scrimmage of the week, Mia pushed herself harder than ever. The ball seemed to flow through her hands like it always had. But now there was a new fire within her. She wasn't just playing to win, she was playing to prove that she belonged, that she could stand on her own. When the game ended, the coaches were in awe. They were clapping, cheering, and giving her a standing ovation. Mia stood there breathless, but with a smile that reached her eyes. It was validation she didn't know she needed. A confirmation that all the hard work, all the sacrifices, and all the struggles were worth it. That night, as she texted her dad, her heart swelled with pride. Today was great. We did it. A message pinged back almost instantly. Proud of you, baby. Bigger than basketball. For Mia, that wasn't just a message. It was a reminder. A reminder that no matter what obstacles she faced, no matter the judgment or the doubt, she would always have the strength to move forward. And now, more than ever, she knew that the journey was just beginning. Mia O'Neal's story is not only a lesson in sports, but also a testament to the power of perseverance and self-confidence. In life, we sometimes face doubts, prejudices, and unexpected challenges. However, like Mia, the important thing is not to let those difficulties define us. The biggest lesson we can take away is that even if we start late or carry the marks of the past, each person can rise and prove their worth. For older adults, this lesson becomes even more profound. Life experience can make us feel weary and sometimes disappointed. However, age is not a barrier to growth and new aspirations. No matter how tough life gets, never give up. Believe in yourself and keep striving. While we may not change the past, we can definitely renew the future by continuing to learn, grow, and share valuable experiences.